The Nightlords are not proof that your Elden Ring ending does not matter. They are proof that it was never guaranteed. That is the real horror of Nightreign. Not that it replaces the lands between you knew. That it shows a neighboring world where the same myth broke in a different direction. A world where the Shattering did not lead to your journey. A world where grace did not carry a Tarnished toward the Elden throne. A world where night descended, took root, and became a kingdom. So the question is not simply, are the Nightlords canon? The better question is, canon to what? Because Elden Ring Nightreign does not sit inside the main game's timeline like a hidden chapter. It stands beside it, a parallel world, a separate story, and that may be more interesting than being canon in the simple way fans usually mean it. Nightreign is a standalone Elden Ring spin-off, released after the original game had already become one of the most dissected fantasy worlds in modern games. That matters because Elden Ring trained its audience to treat everything as evidence. An item description is evidence. A statue is evidence. The shape of a ruin, the placement of a corpse, the name of a spell, the color of a flame, the one word an NPC refuses to explain. Elden Ring fans do not just play the game, they excavate it. So when FromSoftware introduced Nightreign as a co-op, session-based adventure set in a parallel version of the Elden Ring universe, the community immediately reached for the same question it always asks. Does this count? Do the Nightlords belong to Elden Ring's mythology, or are they just bosses built for a different kind of game? The answer is uncomfortable because it refuses to be binary. Nightreign is not the story of your Tarnished. It is not secretly what happened after your ending. It is not a missing route where the Age of Stars went wrong or the frenzied flame burned out too early. Its story is separate, but separate does not mean empty. Separate does not mean meaningless. Separate means we have to stop treating canon like a single hallway and start treating FromSoftware mythology like a structure with rooms we have not entered yet. The world of Nightreign centers on Limveld. It is familiar enough to feel like a wound in memory, but wrong enough that you know you are not home. The Shattering still matters. The collapse of order still matters. The broken logic of the lands between still hangs over everything. But after that fracture, this world does not move toward the same path. The primordial night descends. The land is swallowed by a darkness that is not just weather, not just atmosphere, not just a visual theme. It becomes rule. It becomes pressure. It becomes the condition of existence. And under that night, the Nightlords rise. That is why they feel so different from the demigods of Elden Ring. Radahn, Malenia, Rykard, Morgott, Mohg, Godric. They are children of a shattered divine family. Their wars come from inheritance, ambition, rot, blasphemy, shame, blood, and the failure of Marika's order. The Nightlords are not trying to win the same civil war. They are the rulers of a world where night itself has become the organizing force. They are what power looks like after grace is no longer the story's center. That is the key. Elden Ring is haunted by grace. Nightreign is haunted by night. The Nightfarers make that difference clear. In the original Elden Ring, you create a Tarnished. You are a returning exile, called back by grace, moving through a ruined world toward a throne no sane person should want. In Nightreign, you play as defined characters with their own histories, roles, and remembrances. That is not a small shift. It changes the emotional engine. The Tarnished is a vessel for your ambition. The Nightfarers are survivors inside a specific disaster. Their stories are not about becoming Elden Lord. They are about enduring a cycle of night long enough to understand what is hunting their world and what kind of person they become while fighting it. That is why the format matters, even when lore fans dislike it. Nightraign's runs are faster, more mechanical, more repeatable. It does not give you the same slow pilgrimage through decay that Elden Ring gave you, but its structure fits its premise. This is not a world waiting centuries for one Tarnished to claim a throne. This is a world under recurring pressure, where survival happens in attempts, failures, returns, and fragments of memory. The loop is not just gameplay, it is mood. Every run says the same thing. Night is not an event. Night is a regime. So are the Nightlords Canon? If by canon you mean, did these events happen in the same timeline where your Tarnished defeated Radon, faced the Elden Beast, and chose an ending? No, that is the clean answer. Nightreign does not overwrite your journey. It does not sneak into the main timeline and tell you that your ending was secretly false. It is not Elden Ring 1.5 hidden behind co-op mechanics. But if by canon you mean, are the Nightlords part of the larger Elden Ring universe as an official parallel mythology? Then yes, in the way that matters. They are not main timeline events. They are alternate world truths. And that distinction is important because FromSoftware worlds have always been more comfortable with myth than with clean continuity. Myths do not behave like spreadsheets. They repeat, they contradict, they preserve emotional truth even when literal details shift. Elden Ring itself already plays with this. The world is full of competing accounts, half-remembered histories, religious propaganda, ruined monuments, and characters who understand only pieces of the cosmic machine they live inside. Nightreign extends that logic sideways. It asks what happens if the same mythic foundation produces a different nightmare, not the Golden Order collapsing into the age your Tarnished navigates, but the Shattering giving way to primordial night. Not grace calling you forward, but darkness pressing everyone down. Not demigods as the final shape of divine inheritance, but Nightlords as the final shape of a world abandoned to night. That is why calling Nightreign non-canon is too easy. It protects the main game, but it also misses the point. The Nightlords do not need to have ruled your lands between to matter. Their value is not that they secretly explain millennia or rewrite Rani or change what the Elden Beast was. Their value is that they reveal another possible expression of the same cosmic language. Elden Ring's main world asks what happens when a divine order breaks and everyone fights over the pieces. Nightreign asks what happens when the break lets night become sovereign. That is not a replacement. It is a variation, and in FromSoftware terms, variations matter. Dark Souls repeats fire and dark across cycles until history becomes almost ritual. Bloodborne repeats hunter and prey, dream and waking, birth and horror, until identity starts to dissolve. Elden Ring repeats divinity, inheritance, fracture, and repair through families, gods, runes, and endings. Nightreign adds another repetition. Light fails, night rules, survivors gather, and something wearing the authority of a lord waits in the dark. The fear, of course, is that Nightreign's format makes the lore feel lighter. That is a fair fear. Elden Ring's greatest storytelling tool was stillness. You could stand in Caelid and understand rot before anyone explained it. You could walk through Leyndell and feel an empire trying to pretend it was not already dead. You could descend into Nokron and realize the world had layers of failure buried under its own history. Nightreign moves differently. It is built for co-op pressure, routing, combat, and repetition. You are not meant to wander for hours, slowly decoding a civilization from the angle of its broken rooftops. That means its lore has to work harder. A Nightlord cannot just look impressive. It needs weight. It needs implication. It needs to feel like the ruler of a parallel disaster, not a cool boss placed at the end of a run. The best parts of Nightreign are the places where it understands that. The Nightfarers having remembrances matters because it gives the game human texture. Limveld matters because it lets the familiar become unstable. The Primordial Night matters because it is not just a backdrop. It is the force that defines the world. When those pieces connect, Nightreign feels like mythology. When they do not, it risks feeling like content. And that tension is exactly why the canon debate refuses to die. Fans are not only asking whether Nightreign is official, they are asking whether it has earned the right to stand near Elden Ring's myth. Here is the strongest way to understand it. Your Elden Ring ending is still real. If you became Elden Lord, that mattered. If you chose Ranni's Age of Stars, that mattered. If you burned everything with the frenzied flame, that mattered too. Nightreign does not erase those endings. It makes them feel less inevitable, because now, beside your world, there is another one where the story bent toward night instead of grace. That makes your victory smaller in one sense. It was not the universal solution to every possible lands between, but it also makes your victory more powerful, because it was an outcome that had to be fought for. There are worlds where the call never came, worlds where the throne stayed empty, worlds where darkness organized itself before anyone could stop it, worlds where the Nightlords rose. Your timeline is not cheapened by that, it is sharpened. A victory means more when failure has a face, and Nightreign gives that failure a kingdom. The Nightlords are not just a canon problem, they are a question about how we handle myth in games. Players often want lore to behave like a legal document, one timeline, one answer, one approved sequence of facts. But FromSoftware has always been more interested in uncertainty, not empty uncertainty, not anything can mean anything, meaningful uncertainty. The kind where two interpretations can wound you in different ways. The kind where an item description gives you enough truth to suffer but not enough truth to rest. Nightreign belongs in that space. It is canon to itself. It is parallel to Elden Ring. It shares enough mythic DNA to matter, but not enough timeline continuity to overwrite the original. That is not a weakness. That is the point. The Nightlords are what happens when Elden Ring's world is allowed to dream a darker neighboring dream. Not the dream of becoming Lord, the dream of surviving night. So the answer is this. The Nightlords are not canon as events in your Tarnished's story. They are canon as part of Nightreign's parallel mythology. They do not replace Radon, Melania, Ranni, Marika, or the endings you chose. They stand beside them as a different outcome of a broken cosmic order. And if that feels unsatisfying, that is because we keep asking the question like continuity is the only thing that gives a story weight. But sometimes a parallel world matters because it shows you what your world escaped. Sometimes an alternate timeline matters because it turns victory into contingency. Sometimes the most frightening thing a spin-off can say is not, "This happened after your story." It is, Somewhere else, your story never had the chance to happen. That is what the Nightlords are. Not invaders from your ending, not proof that your choices failed, not a contradiction that breaks Elden Ring's canon. They are the rulers of the branch where night won. The shadow beside grace. The throne left empty long enough for darkness to sit down. And that is why they matter. Because your lands between was never destined to be saved. It was saved because you arrived. In Nightreign's world, something else arrived first.